Tony Ferguson is an animal.
Yeah.
He's the scariest guy at 155 in my word.
I agree.
They all fell off a train.
Like fighter, I respect him. But like human being, I don't understand this guy.
Tony El Cucuy Ferguson!
I think that's what, 6, 7 losses in a row now.
I would love to see Tony retire.
Nobody can be same long time. Nobody. No Tony Ferguson, no Khabib, nobody.
What led to the rise and fall of Tony Ferguson? Born and raised in the tough streets of California, his talent and tenacity earned him a spot at Grand Valley State University, where he proved his mettle as a 2-time Division I NCAA qualifier. But the wrestling mats were only the beginning. Ferguson's journey took a turn towards the cage, transitioning into the world of mixed martial arts. He balanced odd jobs and grueling training schedules, making a name for himself on the regional MMA circuit. Every punch thrown, every takedown executed was a step closer to the big leagues. From the wrestling mats of high school to the regional MMA circuit, Ferguson was carving his unique path, a path that would lead him to the bright lights of the UFC. The year 2011 saw Ferguson stepping onto a bigger stage. The Ultimate Fighter's 13th season was his moment to shine, and Tony Ferguson did not disappoint. Despite a loss in the finale, his unorthodox fighting style and relentless pressure in the octagon left a lasting impression on the UFC brass. The following year, he made his official UFC debut.
Ventura, California, Tony El Cucuy Ferguson!
And with each fight, his reputation grew. Fans were drawn to his exciting performances, gritty determination, and unconventional brilliance. He wasn't just a fighter, he was a performer, a showman who knew how to keep the crowd on the edge of their seats. From his stunning knockouts to his submission victories, Ferguson was proving to be a force to be reckoned with in the lightweight division. His unique blend of relentless wrestling, unpredictable striking, and rubber guard mastery quickly set him apart from the competition. Ferguson was quickly making a name for himself in the UFC. From here on, El Cucuy began his reign. The next chapter in Tony Ferguson's journey was nothing short of spectacular. He emerged as a force to be reckoned with, taking down some of the biggest names in the division. His victories over formidable opponents like Michael Johnson, Edson Barboza, and Rafael dos Anjos were not just wins, they were statements. His unconventional approach inside the octagon kept his opponents guessing and the fans on the edge of their seats. In 2016, Ferguson's dominance culminated in a thrilling victory, earning him the interim lightweight championship. But it wasn't just about the belt for Ferguson. His unyielding determination and unconventional fighting style had the MMA world in awe as he racked up a record-breaking 12-fight win streak. His performances were nothing short of spectacular, each one more impressive than the last. The stage was set for a title unification bout against the formidable Khabib Nurmagomedov, a clash of titans that had fans on the edge of their seats. Yet fate had other plans. Injuries and cancellations played spoilsport, derailing the much-anticipated fight time and again. But El Cucuy was relentless. He didn't let the disappointment deter him. Instead, he continued to dominate his opponents, extending his streak and further solidifying his legacy. His brilliance in the octagon was undeniable. His win streak seemed unbreakable. However, remember, every streak has an end. And little did we know, the end of Ferguson's unbreakable streak was imminent. But what goes up must come down, and for Ferguson, the descent was steep. In the unforgiving world of MMA, injuries are the hidden enemies that can break even the toughest fighters. Tony Ferguson, unfortunately, was no stranger to this foe. Throughout his illustrious career, he battled numerous injuries, particularly to his knees and elbows. These injuries forced him into extended periods of rest and recuperation, disrupting his training rhythm and potentially impacting his readiness for fights. The first significant dent in his armor was his much-anticipated bout against Khabib Nurmagomedov. Fans had been salivating for this matchup, but a series of injuries and cancellations kept derailing it. Ferguson stepped into the octagon once again, this time against Justin Gaethje at UFC 249. The result was another brutal defeat, further solidifying his downward trajectory. The fighter who was once known for his relentless pressure and unorthodox style seemed to be losing his edge. As the losses piled up, so did the criticism. Fans and pundits alike started questioning his legacy and his place in the sport.
At this point in your career, what do you think you are to the company? Like there's prospects and there's contenders, there's champions, and then there's guys that like what do you think your value is to the company you have?
Some even called for his retirement, including UFC President Dana White.
I think that's what, 7 losses in a row now.
I would love to see Tony retire.
The decline in Ferguson's performance was not just evident in his losses, but also in his overall demeanor. The spark that had once made him a fan favorite seemed to be waning. Each defeat seemed to take away a piece of the fighter he once was. MMA is a sport that celebrates the highs of victory, but also exposes the lows of defeat. For Tony Ferguson, his decline serves as a harsh reminder of the merciless nature of this sport. Today, Tony Ferguson is a shadow of his former self, a once dominant fighter now on a 7-fight losing streak. The fall from grace has been hard for Ferguson. Once a formidable force, his losing streak has sent shockwaves through the MMA community. The once unstoppable El Cucuy has been met with a barrage of criticism and even pity from fans and fighters alike.
Nobody can be same long time. Nobody. No Tony Ferguson.
An absolute legend though. Everyone give a round of applause. Let's hear for Tony Ferguson. Legend. Absolute legend of the sport.
His performances have led many to question if his prime years are behind him. Dana White, the president of UFC, has publicly expressed his concern for Ferguson's well-being. He's suggested retirement might be the best option for Ferguson, echoing the sentiments of many within the industry. Yet Ferguson remains defiant, his spirit undeterred. He continues to train, to fight, refusing to hang up his gloves just yet. Currently, his career hangs in the balance. His future fights hold more than just the prospect of victory or defeat. They carry the weight of his legacy.
If you watched the video this far, please consider giving this video a like and also click the subscribe button with bell notification, and you can also check my other videos.